The front of a city bus is a wall of glass. No hood, no bulge, no engine. Just flat, open windshield from one side to the other, and a driver sitting right up at the nose like the cab of a spaceship. You have ridden behind that wall of glass hundreds of times and probably never once asked where the engine went. It didn't disappear. It moved, and the decision to move it, deliberately, permanently, against every instinct from a century of truck and car design, quietly changed the way cities move people. It changed who could board a bus, how fast they could do it, how safe the ride felt, and how much fuel the whole operation burned. One engineering decision, rippling through every transit system on Earth. Here is where it gets strange. Moving the engine to the back actually created a harder engineering problem than leaving it at the front. The people who designed it knew that going in. They did it anyway, because what it solved on the other end was worth every headache. This is the story of that trade-off. And by the end, you will never look at the front of a bus the same way again. For the first several decades of bus history, engines lived exactly where you would expect them. Right up front, under a hood. Exactly like a truck, because early buses essentially were trucks. A passenger box bolted onto a commercial chassis. Engine forward, driver sitting behind it, hood stretching out ahead of the windshield. That arrangement worked. But working and working well are two different things entirely. Picture sitting in the first two rows of one of those early front engine buses. The diesel engine, a machine producing heat, vibration, and exhaust at full industrial scale, is sitting roughly 3 feet in front of your knees, separated from you by a metal firewall and not much else. The noise is constant. The heat radiates through the floor and the wall. Riding near the front of a 1940s city bus was not far from sitting next to a running lawnmower for 40 minutes. Every single day. That was the passenger experience engineers inherited. And it was only one of the problems. The deeper issue was the floor. A front-mounted engine on a bus doesn't just bring noise. It brings a mountain of mechanical hardware that has to go somewhere. The engine block, the transmission, the drive shaft running the length of the vehicle, all of it had to live underneath or beside the passenger compartment, which meant the floor of the bus had to step up and over it. Steps at the front door, a raised center aisle in some designs, a tunnel of steel running down the middle of the cabin. Imagine walking through your own front hallway, except someone has built a 2-foot-tall wall straight down the middle of it, and you have to step over it every time you move from one side to the other. That is what the drivetrain did to early bus interiors. It was just accepted as the cost of doing business. Then engineers started asking a different question. What if the business model was wrong? The shift to rear engine design began gaining real momentum in the 1950s and accelerated hard through the 1960s as cities started grappling with the reality of mass transit at scale. More passengers, faster boarding, wider access, lower operating costs. Every one of those goals pointed at the same problem, the floor. Move the engine to the back, and something remarkable happens to the front half of the bus. The floor drops, all the way down. No drive shaft tunnel, no step at the door, no raised aisle forcing passengers to navigate around a mechanical spine running the length of the cabin. A modern low-floor city bus, the kind kneeling at a curb cut right now on a street near you, can drop its front door opening to within a few inches of the curb. A person using a wheelchair rolls straight on. An elderly passenger with a cane steps up once, barely. A parent with a stroller doesn't have to fold it, doesn't have to lift it, doesn't have to ask for help. They just board. That is not a small quality of life improvement. That is a fundamental shift in who the bus actually serves. And it was made possible entirely by relocating 900 pounds of diesel engine to the rear axle. 900 pounds. That is roughly the combined weight of 6 full-grown adults standing in the same corner of a room. Now picture a seesaw. Put all 6 of those people on one end. The other end goes straight up. That is the weight management problem that rear-engine bus designers had to solve. And solve precisely, because a bus does not carry the same load at every moment of its operating day. A city bus at 6 in the morning, running mostly empty, weighs and balances completely differently than the same bus at 8:15, packed to standing capacity, with 40 people clustered near the front doors because the back of the bus fills last. The front axle, the axle doing the steering, is already carrying the driver, the fare system, and the entry crowd. Add too much weight there, and the steering gets dangerously heavy. Remove too much, and the front axle goes light, reducing the driver's control exactly when control matters most. The rear engine acts as a permanent counterweight. It anchors the back of the bus, keeping the weight distribution across both axles within a range the chassis and the steering system can handle regardless of how passengers are loaded. It is not an accident of packaging. It is structural balance, built in. Now here is the part that should make you stop and reconsider everything that sounds obvious about this design. The back of a bus, at highway speed, is the worst possible place to cool an engine. When a vehicle moves forward, air flows over and through the front. That airflow is free cooling, ram air, hitting the radiator, carrying heat away without any extra energy spent. A front-engine vehicle gets this for nothing. It is one of the oldest tricks in automotive design. A rear-engine bus gets none of it. The engine is sitting in a compartment at the tail of a vehicle that is physically blocking the airflow from reaching it. The bus body acts like a wind shadow over its own power plant. Every rear-engine bus on the road today requires an active, engineered cooling system, electric fans, carefully designed intake vents, thermal management calibrated to the specific heat load of that engine in that compartment. Because the passive solution that every front-engine vehicle relies on simply does not exist back there. Engineers knew this when they made the switch. They chose the harder cooling problem deliberately, because the floor, the noise, the balance, and the passenger access gains on the other side of the equation outweighed it. The rear engine is a conscious acceptance of one difficult problem in exchange for solving 5 easier ones. That trade-off plays out in real time on every route, every day. A 40-foot city bus pulls away from a downtown stop. The engine, mounted transversely across the rear axle, tucked entirely within the rear overhang of the body, fires power forward through a modern automatic transmission built specifically for stop-start urban duty cycles. Not a highway transmission. Not a truck transmission. A unit designed to shift dozens of times per mile without driver input, protecting the drivetrain from the violence of constant acceleration and braking in dense traffic. As the bus accelerates, passengers standing near the front doors shift their weight. The rear engine holds the back axle planted. The front axle carries its share without being overwhelmed. The low floor stretches the full length of the standing area, so passengers can move freely without stepping over anything. At the next stop, the bus kneels. Pneumatic suspension drops the front of the vehicle toward the curb. The door opens at curb height. A passenger with a rolling cart steps straight on in under 3 seconds. The bus rises, the door closes, and the rear engine pulls the whole system. Passengers, frame, fuel, cargo, back into motion. Nobody on board thinks about any of this. That is exactly the point. The rear engine is not visible to passengers. It is not audible the way a front engine was. Its heat exhausts at the back of the vehicle, behind the last row, away from the cabin. The noise signature inside a modern rear-engine transit bus is dramatically lower than anything those early front-engine designs produced. The passengers are separated from the powertrain by the entire length of the vehicle. The machine is doing its work quietly, at the far end, out of the way. Every single piece of that passenger experience, the low floor, the quiet, the smooth boarding, the stable ride, traces back to one repositioning decision made by engineers who were willing to accept a harder cooling problem in exchange for a better machine. And the refinement is still happening. hybrid, and fully electric buses take the rear engine logic and extend it further. The battery packs ride low along the frame rails. Electric motors at the rear axle eliminate the transmission entirely. The floor drops even lower. The noise drops to almost nothing. The cooling problem changes shape because the heat loads are smaller and more predictable. The bus got better by moving its engine to the worst aerodynamic position in the vehicle. And then it got even better by removing the engine altogether, which raises a question worth sitting with. If the transmission in a city bus is already one of the most specialized pieces of hardware on the road, designed for a duty cycle that would destroy a standard automatic in months, what happens when that transmission disappears and an electric motor takes over the whole job? The answer involves a completely different kind of torque delivery, instant and flat from zero. And it changes how a bus feels to drive in ways most passengers will never consciously notice, but will absolutely feel. If that kind of engineering story is what keeps you watching, subscribe. There is a lot more running underneath the vehicles you ride every day than most people ever think to ask.